Okay, so my name is Eric Ule. I'm 22 years at Salesforce. Computer science is what I started with, so very technical. Today, I want to make sure that everybody is excited about what's now possible with the AI tools that are only 3 months old for Salesforce admins. Salesforce developers also, but also Salesforce admins. My take from the last time I was on this meeting was that there's a lot of more admins in this group than developers. So feel free to ask questions and say, hey, come on, make it simple for me. You keep talking about code, show me a flow, show me something else. I'm going to try to keep it at that level. So, and then I want you to know about MCP also. I'm sure you know a little bit about MCP, but also we've learned that MCP creates problems for some customers because it enables things they never thought they would have to protect for. So I want to make sure you know about that too. Your business people are going to come to you and say, I want to use Claude with my Salesforce org, turn it on. And you're going to have to think about the things I told you today and go like, okay, I can turn it on. Let's start slowly. This is how we start, and this is how we're going. So I want to make sure you're equipped with that information. Okay, who am I? Salesforce, long time, went to UC San Diego. I have a team of 8 architects on my team. When you meet with a Salesforce sales engineer, probably during a sales cycle, they're handling most of the demonstrations. And then when somebody from your admin or IT team says, I want to get technical, and we want to talk about programming, integration, development, then my team takes over. Did I lose my, there it is. My wife and dog, Michelle and Dexter. My daughter, Helena, is 16. I like to bake sourdough. I like to fly fish. I like to travel. I went to South Africa a couple of years ago, and this was one of my best shots of a bunch of zebras, and you start to understand why zebras have stripes. It's because a lion doesn't know which side of the zebra is the front or the back. It's called a dazzle of zebras, is what they call it. And then things about me, I was at Accenture before Salesforce. I speak French, and I've met a couple of celebrities in random places. So if we want to talk afterwards, you can ask me weird questions. Okay, getting into Claude or Agentforce Vibes and why we use it. Everybody, raise your hand if there's a backlog of things you need to work on. Anybody have a backlog? Okay, there's some people. So a lot of my customers are like, oh my gosh, I have so much stuff to do, and it's overwhelming. I have technical debt in my org. There's always more work that needs to be done. There's work that needs to be done, and I don't have the expertise for the work. I don't know how to create flows or, manage my permission sets, or do I have so many profiles in my org? Can I simplify those and turn those into perm set groups? Because every time I create a new profile, it makes my page layout administration even more complicated because it multiplies the number of page layouts you might need per record type. So if you can reduce the number of profiles, it simplifies your administration. There are flows that are confusing. We don't know how they work. There's Apex code with errors. If you're the kind of developer or admin who deals with Apex code errors, there are reasons to go into these things, but there's too much work to do. So what do you do about it? So the answer is use agents and skills. You can do more now this month than you could in November last year. So in December 2025, raise your hands in the room or online, who is using Cursor, Claude, personally or at work? I'm going to look for some thumbs up online. I see a 1, 2, 3. I see 3 people in the room here, 4 or 5. Okay, great. So I pay $20 a month personally for my access to Claude because Salesforce wasn't buying it for me. And I thought for my own career, I need to learn how to do this. It's not AI that's going to take your job. It's somebody who knows AI that's going to take your job. Then Salesforce bought Claude for the sales employees and the developers and the service employees and the professional services, because we also thought for the employees, for our customers, we need to know how to transform our company to do things differently using AI. It was only possible starting in December because people went away for holiday break in December and they played with the latest version of Claude, and it was so good. They came back to work in January and started vibe coding everything. And so, but it was all about Python. It was about Java, JavaScript. Has anybody vibe coded anything in here? One. Okay, I see somebody else. I vibe coded a mobile phone app. Anybody else do something? Put in the chat down below to see what you vibe coded if you have something. So let's see. Yeah?
You can go to chat.
Okay, go to chat. Thank you very much. Okay, great. So, but you could not customize Salesforce in the beginning. Claude and Anthropic models and ChatGPT models, they weren't trained on Salesforce. They kind of knew Apex code, but they might skip back and forth between Java and Apex, and they weren't really good at LWC. So there was just no help for Salesforce admins the first 3 months. We were kind of left in the dark. Somebody at Salesforce created Salesforce Skills. And it's one of our 4 deployed engineers who was working, trying to figure out how to get Claude to be able to do his work for him faster, generate code, create page layouts, create record types, create permission sets, deploy permission sets, download code to my laptop, download page layouts, whatever I need to do on my laptop. So now, so then we announced Agentforce Vibes at TDX in April. It was free. It was free with like a governor limit. You could use full-powered Agentforce Vibes in the beginning on a great Claude model, and then the power would drop off to a free model after that, and it just wasn't so good. And so now Agentforce Vibes is something you have to buy. So I'm telling you up front, I'm telling you about a product. I'll tell you 2 products. Both of them cost money, but you'll see both today. So Agentforce Vibes is one. It has Salesforce Skills built in. If you use Claude or Cursor or Codex or Windsurf or any via AI coding environment, you can download these skills to your desktop, your laptop, install them, and have the same power. And you'll see me today mostly demoing Claude. Same skills, just 2 different AI tools to do this. Okay, so the demo. So let me go over to my browser. Let me find it. Okay, let me see if I can reconnect. So Agentforce Vibes, I'm going to show you in 2 places. Let me make my font larger. Under the setup menu, there used to be a developer console. There still is. But Agentforce Vibes is actually what we're talking about for AI and it's an integrated development environment. It's an IDE, mostly used by programmers, but actually you can use it to move stuff between orgs if you want to. And so this takes a second to load. You're going to have to connect it to your org using your username and password. We'll see if I can remember how to do that. And you will see that it's very, very similar to VS Code. This is a Microsoft product where you can look at all of your files in a Salesforce DX project. Your custom code is going to be in here. Your classes are in here. Your custom objects and custom fields are in here. You can look at any one of these files, and it pulls it up over here. And then on the right-hand side, you can see I have a Claude plugin right here that starts Claude in my window. And so Claude takes a second to load. And so whether you're in this view or this view, when it finishes loading, it's coming up here. Okay, there we are. It's just the layout is the same. We have files, we have search, we have GitHub integration, we have plugins, and then we have Agentforce Vibes. And Agentforce Vibes is going to be very similar to what we saw with Claude. It's on the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side, but it's here also. And when it starts up, it does a bunch of connections. It wants to connect to an org. Down here at the bottom, it says Cirrus for Vibes. That's the name of my production org that I'm connecting to, my demo org. You're going to connect it to that, and then it says a bunch of suggestions. I can use it to write a formula field on opportunity that calculates days between created date and close date. It'll generate it. Create a project custom object with auto number, name, start date, and number of days fields. These are things we can do. We know how to do them, but my experience is it's about 5 times faster to use AI this way than to do it yourself. In this mode, there is, when you work with Agentforce Vibes or Claude, You can ask it questions about, explain this to me, explain this flow, explain this class, explain this LWC, explain Apex, explain anything, and it will talk to you. And there's two modes when you're working with any vibe coding. There's at the bottom here, plan mode and act mode. So plan is talk to me all you want, and every time I ask it questions, it uses Vibes tokens or it uses Claude tokens. If I go into act mode, I can say, hey, I'm going to go to dinner and I need to design a project management app that has two objects, projects and issues. And I need to track who owns the project, who owns the issue, what the status of the issue is. And you can just talk to it out of order. You can say, actually, no, that's not what I want. It doesn't have to be perfect. Often, let's see if I can do it now. If I turn on dictation, oh, is it on now? Okay, so I can sit here and I'll often talk to my computer and I'll use Agentforce Vibes as a thought partner. What's the best way to do this? Does Apex have a way, or does Salesforce have a way and flow to convert a lead? I'm not sure. That might be the way to do it. Anyway, the big, whatever your thoughts are, you can just talk to it like that and then hit go. And this is what you're going to see if you run out of your credits. My demo org says you're out of credits. So I'm going to demo the rest of the demo in Claude.
Oh, you have Claude.
Yeah, I have Claude over here. So Claude has the same thing. There's manual mode, auto mode, plan mode. So I'll often control my credits and I'll put it into plan mode. And I'll do my thinking. I've had 2-hour conversations as a sales technical architect with Claude where I'm talking about, hey, my customers are telling me that Salesforce is dead. My customers are saying SaaSpocalypse is real. My customers are saying, why do you even need Salesforce anymore? You're just going to custom code everything. And I have had what's the Greek philosopher? I've had debates with
Socrates.
Yeah, Socratic debates with Claude saying, what is the reason? Why would we do this? What are the processes that people are managing in Salesforce? Can they be extracted? Where can we store them? My customer says we can store them in Snowflake. Is Snowflake good for process management? Is it good for reporting? Can I put workflow in Snowflake? Like all these questions, I'm using it. That's how I'm using it. But when you have a challenge in your life, personal, I've asked it about psychology questions, or technical, you can ask it about lead conversion, performance analysis in Salesforce. Ask it questions and it will answer. The thing that's in here also is skills. So we talked about there are all these skills, and I'll go back to the other view because it's a better demo. Where is it? Okay, down here, Opus, let me kill this, Agentforce Vibes. So show 135 more. There's more than you want to know about. Let me make this larger. Okay. When you install the skills kit, it comes out of the box with Agentforce Vibe, or you can install it into Claude. If you don't know how to create an agent, it's okay. I do not know. I mean, I know how to create an agent, but I don't really want to write the agent script. I want to tell it what I need, and I want it to help me get there. This will do that because this already knows how to do data 360 modeling. It knows how to do design. It knows how to work with deployment and DevOps. It knows how to do Agentforce stuff, Experience Cloud. And the thing that I think is simple to start from is we could talk about flows. Automation flow generate. When you work with an agent, you load a skill. So you just type, I'm not going to do it here because I don't have any credits, but I'll go over here to say flow, generate flow, automation flow generate. It's going to go thinking, and it's going to load a page or 2 pages long, whatever this skill is. It's something you can read. It's plain text. And it talks about how you always need a start point and an end point for your flow. You need decision branches in your flow. Every flow should have an error fault, that you should use. And so what's it doing here? Let me look at the current selection of context. So it thinks I want to ask it a flow about what's on the screen right here. And it says, what flow would you like me to generate? For example, a screen flow, guided user input, a record triggered flow, a scheduled flow, an auto launch flow. And you can just talk to it here and say, For the sales team, I need to create a flow that does approval every time an opportunity gets to stage 5 and the following 5 fields are populated. Make sure you route it to this professional services team so they can start creating staffing, let's say, for a project. You just tell it that and it will go build it. Another one I've used is I wanted to build a flow that could be called from Claude agent, one that automatically inserted records, but only 5 records at a time. I didn't want to let Claude insert 100 records at a time, so I made a flow that had a limit, and I will only ever be able to call the flow past 5 records, and it won't accept more than 5 records. I just built it, telling it what I wanted. I dictated to it, and it hit save, and it went it. So that's me talking a lot. Does anybody have any stories? Yes, good point. SK Samuel, I'm using Opus. In the beginning, I don't know where you're going to see it here. You can switch models in Claude, and you can give it a model name. It says I'm rightly on Opus. And also, when you're over here down here, it says Opus 4.8. That's maybe more power than you need, and it burns tokens faster. And the way it works for my monthly $20 subscription, I don't know exactly how it works, but if I use the lower models, 4.6, 4.5, or Sonnet, I spend tokens more slowly, and my $20 goes further. If I use Opus 4.8, thank you, SK again, it's going to burn it fast, and it's probably overkill. As a beginner, most of your questions probably don't need to be in Opus. You can probably start. Just if you're using it for parsing text, answering questions, looking things up, no big deal. If you're looking at all the code for a bigger project, or all of the pages, or all the flows, it's a big flow, and you need more context, more thinking, more complexity, then maybe you'll use a more expensive model like Opus 4.8. So thanks for bringing that up. Gautam built an open source framework called Record Health Check. Gautam, tell us more about that in the chat, and how it's relevant to Claude. Maybe you actually vibe coded it. Okay, so that's just a quick demo. Let's go back to the slides. So there was a Vibes 1.0 last year. It was pretty simple. It was sort of like Microsoft Copilot was at the beginning. If you wanted to generate code, you would go into the window and hit / for comment, and you would say, I need 5 fields on this object. There are these types of fields, and it would go, and it would generate the XML for you. Vibes 2.0 came out around April, and it was a huge upgrade because now it had skills. Skills is the big thing that changed between last year and this year. We want you to talk to it. It says, I put up here, for admins and pro code developers. My sales engineers that I work with, most of the difference between Salesforce sales engineer and Salesforce technical architect, the sales engineer is an expert at the setup menu, and we can build anything out of the box with the out-of-the-box page layouts, tabs, fields, page layouts, workflow, everything is configurable, but the sales engineers typically, historically, never did much programming. I think the same is true for admins. Depending on the situation, maybe you'll start programming because there are things you could never do. Like sometimes a flow is maybe not the right way to do something. And maybe a trigger is better, or maybe code is better, or maybe you want to make a Lightning Web Components, and the only way to get the data back and forth between the Lightning Web Component and the Salesforce objects is an Aura-enabled class. In the past, only a programmer could do that. Today, you could go load the skill for LWC and say, I'm taking out my phone for people online, let me take a picture of the napkin drawing that I just did at lunchtime with my sales VP. He said he wants a screen that looks like this. You can put the picture as an accessory or an asset inside your project. You can attach content in this screen, and you can also do it in Vibes. And it could be color palette, it could be design of a screen, and you could say, use this as input and generate my LWC, and it will take a stab at it. And then you'll say, I don't like it, and I want to change it this way. And it will say, okay, and it will spend tokens doing it, but it will change things that way. So And it's not replacing programmers, it's not replacing product designers, and it's not replacing project managers. So anybody who has that job can use these tools to do their job better and faster. But what we found is, in the first month of using Vibes and Claude Code, all the developers thought they were designers, and all the designers thought they were developers, and all the product managers thought they were developers and designers. And after about a month, things stopped working so well. We started to find out that the designers didn't know about scale in designing code. The coders didn't know about obvious things like consistency in design and usability. And even though they tried to do a good job, it wasn't that good of a job. And then the product managers had a similar problem. So I'm looking around the room going like, is my job at risk? Your job's not at risk, but use the tools and you'll move 5 times faster. I say 5 times, that's my own experience. I sat around on a Sunday morning and I built an agent, and in 3 hours it was tested with Apex classes for actions. And I never could have done that in a week because I have a day job, but on a weekend, I can kind of put something together real quick. Any questions? Let's check the screen. No questions on Q&A from the room. Any questions? Yes?
Have you used this for automating your daily tasks? Any of your daily tasks that you do in your...
Yes. So every person I work with has different daily tasks. It's sort of role specific. I'm a manager of technical architects. My daily tasks are different than what my technical architects do. Technical architects are similar to sales engineers. They both have customer meetings, a busy calendar, and they have to log their activities for what customer they spend time on every day and things like that. So one of the big things that we've gotten on the sales team is automated activity logging, time logging. We just tell Claude to look at our calendar and figure out what account is related to this calendar. We can tell by the attendees on the calendar. And it took some testing, and somebody wrote a big long skill to do it. We had to tell Claude, there's a field called SE role. My role is technical architect. Somebody else's role is sales engineer. So when this person runs it, it needs to be sales engineer. When this person runs it, it needs to be technical architect. So there's specifics about it, but by writing a skill, we've told, and we connected Claude to our CRM org. We gave it read-write access to certain objects. And we gave it some skills. And now we're trading the skills around the teams so that people can do that. The sales teams are doing something different. The sales teams want to use it to say things like, get me ready for a call. I'm meeting with the CIO. What does this CIO care about given his company? What the 10K and the 10K and the 8K say on the investment website on edgars.com, and help me, what is this company's priorities? And so they're using it for research and automating that. Those are 2 ideas.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. We found that everybody, when you use Claude for your business tasks or Claude for your Salesforce customization, the customization and coding is a more obvious use case. Using it for business tasks, you really have to start thinking about, like, where is my information? When I write my quarterly review of my employees, because I have 8 of them, where are my notes from our one-on-ones? I better be taking good notes. They better be readable. What makes it easier is turning on call recording on every single one-on-one call, and now I have a transcript from every call. And so there's a level of trust that's required between employees and managers to say, can I record my calls? And it's always okay. My employees know that it's always okay to say, can we stop recording for a second? Fine. I'm not recording it to catch you. I'm recording it so I don't have to take notes, and I can have better, accurate note-taking at the end of the quarter when I write your quarterly review. I want to hear about your successes. I want to hear about the demo you just gave, things like that. So changing the way you work has been important to use tools like this more. We talked about plan and coding. We talked about testing. If you're somebody who writes code and you have to write Apex tests, nobody likes doing that. It's really hard to write good Apex tests. It's also really hard to write code that's scalable. Many orgs start small with 100 users or 50 users or 200 users and less than 1 million records and accounts and contacts. And that's not really a big record amount for Salesforce. But once you add 200, 500, 1,000 users, and your records go up to like 6 million accounts or whatever, your Apex triggers start failing. Has anybody gotten a 50,001 records queried error in Apex? So that's an example of where you have code that wasn't designed to run on such a large data set. You have to refactor your code. You can go to Agentforce Vibes and say, this code is failing because of too many rows queried. What should I do? And it will propose a fix, and you have to validate it. So you kind of need to know what you're doing. And then you hit save, you hit deploy, you test it in your sandbox on a large data set. If you don't have enough data, you can tell Claude to make fake data and then load 100,000 records of data. So Claude can do lots of things. Claude, Agentforce Vibes, same. So different ways to use it. I think we talked about this in general. So I just talked about refactoring right here. So that's, if you wanted to change code, there are ways to change this. It's great at changing code. I've used it for flows, which I think is admin relevant. My colleague helped a customer analyze. Has anybody ever tried to clone a profile in Salesforce?
Yes.
Okay, how was that experience?
So if you're cloning, say, minimum access and then adding permissions to
Yeah.
it, yeah, it's just like it's tedious because you have to make sure that it's following the policy of minimum access that Salesforce proposes.
And then, so I tried one time to say, I want this profile, but I want everything in this profile, but it's for a different user type. So maybe my sales user had a certain amount of permissions, but I want to move them to a restricted license profile or something like that. In the past, I think the only way to do that, maybe there's some special tools you could use, but you have to kind of pull up both profiles and stare and compare.
Yeah.
And it's awful, and it's risk prone. My colleague, Kalyani in Arizona, she works on my team. She created a Claude skill to analyze a profile, extract all the perm sets, because underneath every profile is really a perm set for everything. Extract all the perm sets, create a perm set group that is the same thing, apply the perm set to the same users, and then in theory, we might be able to just unassign that profile from all the users and put them on a different profile, but they still have all the permissions they had. And you just simplify your administration, because the less profiles you have in your org, you're better. Okay. Skill, I'm going to say, keep this going. So I talked about multimodal. If you want to upload a data set, create a custom object, you can put a spreadsheet in there and say, I need an object that looks like this. And it will upload, it'll create the object after analyzing the columns. It'll then load the fields. It probably will ask a question. Is there a column in this spreadsheet that is a master-child relationship to any record? Or you could tell it that you need it to do that, and it would figure that out. On the right-hand side here, we have a sketch. I had a meeting with my business. I gave them a prototype. I put yellow and green on here. The business said they want this column over here, so I drew on it. I don't want to get rid of actions. I can upload this into Agentforce Vibes as an asset, and it will go like, okay, I see what you mean. You want to get rid of this, and you want me to move this around, and it'll move it. And then this last one down here, if you could upload a PDF, if somebody has a document that is a design of something they want, upload the PDF, and the agentic coding or development tool will do that. We'll create it for you. You can talk to it and iteratively design your project, or you can use a spec, design a spec, create a spec. There's a guy on YouTube named Robert Pocock, P-O-C-O-C-K. P-O-C-O-C-K is his last name for sure. If anybody knows online, I see some questions on chat I have to answer. I'll get to that in a second. He's got great advice on how to use AI for coding in general. Whether it's coding or administration, the best practice seems to be have a conversation, ask your agent questions, think it through. He has a skill specifically called Grill Me or Wayfinder. You can download these, they're public, they're open source. And it's basically a thought partner for you to go back and forth and define the problem.
I think it's Matt Pocock.
Matt Pocock. His stuff is so good. So he would say probably, you know what? I used to do spec driven. I used to work for an hour and create a requirements document and then give that to my coding agent. Now I just talk back and forth. I take questions, and it's almost like the dialogue with the agent is a better way to shape the concept of the project for the agent in the current session than just loading a bunch of text. I don't know why, and who knows if it's true. That's what he's saying. So he's evolved a couple skills. His first one was grill me, then grill me with docs, because grill me would ask me questions, but then I would be talking to it for so long, it would forget what we talked about 2 hours ago. And what you really need is to capture your conclusions in a document. And so grill me with docs was that evolution. And then Wayfinder, I haven't even used yet, but I think Wayfinder is more for, I want to design a video streaming app. Where do I start? And it will start asking you questions. Well, who's the audience? Is it external or internal? Is it high volume? How long are your videos? Where are your videos stored? And it will just be your partner in designing this. So the partner aspect of working with AI, I think, is one of the best things. So don't ask vague questions. Build me an app. Build me a trigger. Make a lightning component that shows accounts and has some filters and maybe a map and also handles errors. These are stupid examples, but be more specific. Awesome examples. Create a, let's see. A lot of these are programming, but number 4, ask me clarifying questions until you're 95% confident you can complete this task. I need a screen flow that lets support reps reassign cases in bulk based on region and skill set. I don't want to build that, but it's not my problem. I do have to test it. But I can have Claude design it and ask me questions. Right now, we're just doing the design, and I'll probably realize I don't know all the answers. So I got to go back to the business, clarifying questions. Go back. You can always prototype quickly and show the business and get feedback, but this back and forth you can have with your agents is super helpful. Let me look at some questions here.
I guess the one question was just talking about his product, like he vibe coded.
Yeah, so Gautam was saying, I vibe coded a product using Claude, Cursor, and Codex to use Codex Soul, which is a low effort for primary development. I think Soul is the highest level model from Codex. And then, yeah?
Yes, the Soul is the highest one, but like the low effort.
Okay, so like the quick thinking, not the deep thinking version, right?
The deep thinking one, but with the lowest effort,
okay.
Like the lowest context switch.
So great. And then you said, think of record health check as a coach sitting on the record page. It checks the record against rules your organization defines, explains what looks good and what needs attention. That's great. That's awesome. So this is interesting because one of the things that people are starting to do now is saying, Salesforce's UI is just not what I want. It has tabs across the top. I think we talked about this last time. People want to go into their home screen, and the way Salesforce designed the home screen, only an administrator can change it. And it's not really tailored to each user or each role. It's kind of the standard chart, activities, recently used items, but it could be so much more. It could be when I open up, it could be my news page. It could be my what's new with my accounts page. It could be my red alerts that support is handling customer service issues for my accounts. It could be so much more. So people are designing, they're calling them go-to-market apps, or they're calling them operating system apps, custom user interfaces that are single-paged apps where either a service agent logs in or a salesperson logs in, and when they log in, they see their world, and all their common use cases are just at their fingertips, and it's an optimized welcome page. Salesforce is okay with that. As long as you want to maintain it, go for it. As long as it gives you accurate information. People are building dashboards with Claude. Claude is not good at math. So if you're asking Claude to summarize or add or extrapolate or average, I still don't trust agentic dashboards to be as accurate as analytics tools like Tableau, especially with 50, 100 records or more. Small numbers of records, sure, no problem. But I don't think Claude is ready to handle 100,000 records and summarize them and give you an average and give you a trajectory or a trend. So just watch out when people want dashboards. I'm a little bit skeptical. Let me go to SK. Have I automated any of my tasks without human in the loop, and which automation tool would you recommend? Pretty much in our case, activity logging is pretty much automated. We just trust it. We've spot checked it. It's not a critical business task, so it's low risk. Okay, at Salesforce, we use something called, it's not vibe coding, but we use it's called the engagement agent. It used to be called the SDR agent. And those are now automated, where we will put a bunch of leads into a lead queue, and the SDR agent goes and sends email in an automated way out to people who are cold leads. It tries to get them to wake up. And if they're interested in a question, we schedule a meeting with a salesperson. And so that's pretty automated. And that we have found in a year, we found $130 million in pipe. Let's say we closed 20% of that. That's still $20 million of closed revenue that we wouldn't have found otherwise, because those were leads we were ignoring. There's such a thing as marketing qualified leads, when there's good email address, good phone number, good city, state, zip, good first name, last name, good company name. As long as you have that, that's marketing qualified, depends on the company. These were companies where these were leads where we had the email address, but no city, state, zip, no phone number. Maybe we had last name. People filled out a lead form with just the minimum or with bad data. So those were the ones we were just throwing away, but we've awakened them with this process. So that's something that's pretty automated. But you are right. The big problem these days is I can create an agent. Most people are building agents that do summarization and research and programming. Some people do programming hands off. There's a term AFK. Does anybody know AFK?
Away from keyboard.
Away from keyboard. So if you're that good at agentic programming, you might set up a project and then say, okay, I got to go pick my kid up at school. I'm going to start this project. I'll be back in an hour. And you'll leave your keyboard. It does your design. It does your programming. It does your testing, test design. It does your fixing of your code after the tests fail. It reruns your tests, and then you come back from picking your kid up at school and you've made some progress. And if you're using the Salesforce or the Claude mobile app, you can check in on it while it's called Remote, I think, Claude Remote, and you can actually interact with Claude while you're AFK. And so that's kind of crazy future. It's present. Let me look, one more thing here. So SK says we create a vibe code app for web scraping and capture the screen and automatically write it on Excel from the screen capture. So you're converting, that's great. You're analyzing an image that was screen captured and saving it to Excel. That's awesome. Okay, setup, I'm halfway through. I think we're doing okay on time. You have to keep me honest. Okay, how to set it up. So Agentforce Vibes, there's help and training steps. There's a limited trial and developer edition. You get 110 questions to Agentforce Vibes, and then you run out of credits, and you can't replenish them. If you are a customer of Agentforce Vibes, somebody buys 1 or 2 licenses for however many people need the Vibes feature, and that's just part of your contract. And now you have, as far as I know, unlimited usage of this. And then if you're not buying Agentforce Vibes, you can still go to either the Claude Code link or the cursor link or anything else, anti-gravity, and you can download the skills here and it will tell you how to install them. And so that's the other way you could get started. And like I said, it's $20 a month for these subscriptions. And I think you can burn those through and get to 20 out of 30 days of the month and run out of your credits. Has anybody done that? Have you you've run out of credits? I mean, on the one hand, that's good. You've been trying hard, but so then you have to upgrade to maybe $100 a month, and then you got to go to your boss and say, I need $100 a month because I'm spending this on my work product. But so anyways, you got to buy this to get to use it, because everybody is paying Anthropic. Everybody's paying Claude for their tokens. So that's where this is all coming from. What questions do you have about this?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, how do you track used tokens versus unused?
Yeah.
Is there any analytics for that?
So let me see if we can see it here. I don't know where it is. I saw earlier today on my screen that there was a token count up here, but I don't know where it was. I don't know. If anybody knows, feel free to tell me. I could Google it now, but I don't know the answer. There is Salesforce. We've installed a proxy that is between our Claude agents and the models that we're using. It's called DevBar. This is sort of an enterprise thing you would do. And the DevBar tells me when I've been using code at what time today. And so there is a centralized metering that's happening at Salesforce. We're looking at everybody who's like, there's a credit limit on my account at Salesforce that says I can use $200 a month, or I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And so they're tracking it centrally. So it is trackable. And so typically your administrator, if you have a corporate contract with Anthropic or Claude, somebody will be able to see who's burning what tokens and what's happening. So it's meterable. I don't know where the answer is for Agentforce Vibes. And I don't know where the answer is for Claude. I forget.
Claude Code.
What is it?
For Claude Code.
For Claude Code. How do I check that? Can I?
I don't use
Yeah, I don't know. There's a configurations file you can add here to Claude. I did this a couple months ago, where it shows you how many tokens you've consumed and what your current context window is, and if it's full and how full it is. And context window is kind of how many thoughts it's keeping in memory at one time. And every once in a while, you have to compact it and make more room. So, but it's not shown by default. They don't want you to worry about how many tokens you're spending. Spend more tokens. Let's see.
Model, and that's it. Nowhere else.
Yes, I know.
Because they don't tell you, like, okay, you're using model A or model B,
No.
and how many tokens you're using if you want to.
Yeah.
Use this.
It's a great, I think it was SK, somebody pointed out I was using Opus. My colleagues and I were talking about going to a customer the other day, and they were so excited about how they were using an agent to go get ready for a meeting. And we said, it looks like you're using Opus 4.8 for this? That's the expensive one. Have you tried using Sonnet? Because it's so, another company here in the Bay Area, I had a dinner with this guy, he says, I have $1 million contract with Anthropic, and my CEO says, because it's my budget, I'm responsible for the return on investment. If we're spending $1 million on Claude, I need to see I need to see an improvement in sales. Whoever's using Claude, I need to see results. Where are the results? So there are tools coming out to help companies get a handle on spend, but they're not going to come from Anthropic. And they're not going to come from OpenAI because they want you to spend as much as possible. So other questions? Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, there's also open source models. So, like, what we use in my company is, like, mainly just, like, GLM 5.2
Yeah.
And Minimax M3s, like, they're top ones. But
Yes.
those are, like, very, very good. And we just use open code to run them.
Yeah.
It works so well, and you just, like,
I love it.
so much better.
I think that's the future.
Yeah.
I think there may be wealthy companies who pay for Claude for their developers to use. But what's your harness?
We host it on our own inference.
Okay.
So,
Do you use Pi, or you said open code? Is that
yeah, we use open code.
Okay. Question? Oh, did I lose the screen? Sorry.
I think the HDMI.
I went to sleep. We'll see what
Oh
happens.
yeah, I just went to sleep. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Fine.
okay, you're good.
So yeah, I think the future is probably,
But I think you need to share your screen.
I will share my screen here. I think the future is open source models.
If you just escape out of the presentation.
I got to find the screen where the presentation was.
I think you swiped out.
Is it the one that's gray next to the
That one?
AUG?
No, that's your.
That's your
computer.
laptop.
That's your laptop.
Oh.
So let me make sure I'm in the meeting. Maybe I got dropped. Let's see. This is a G Meet, right?
No, this is a Bevy. Trail. You
Something
can
else.
search up this URL.
Okay.
Trailblazer Community Group.
Okay, here it is. Yeah, I lost my screen share. Sorry about that. Thanks for watching. So yeah, open source models, I think, are probably the way. The skills you have and the skills you use, they'll work there also. So learning this technology on the expensive stuff, or for $20 a month, it's your nighttime education. Learn some favorite skills. Talk about, learn the grill me skill or the wayfinder skill, or use SF skills. And if you're Salesforce administrators, probably those are good ones to start with, and just try it out. Try it in your sandbox org. And that's a good way to start. There was one other question down here. SK, many times he's run out of credit, so he's optimized so we can track the consumption. What is your dot optimized? Or did you optimize it, SK? Who knows? Okay. Last thing, so the San Francisco Architect User Group got together last week or the week before, and one of them led the crew through the hands-on Vibes class. So if you ever do that, I guess reach out to me and I'll see if I can get you a bunch of orgs. If you ever want to do a hands-on class, you'd have to be on your laptops. It takes about 2 hours, or you can do it by yourself because the link is right here and you can sign up. And there's also a how to use Visual Studio Code for Salesforce development. That's an orientation to that black screen that I was showing you. It doesn't talk about how to use Claude there, but Claude, once you use Claude in your terminal or in VS Code, it's the same almost as using it in Vibes. Vibes comes with a few extra features. It comes with code quality control, so it'll look at some rules for what you should and shouldn't do, and if code is generated and doesn't follow the rules, it will fix itself. It also comes with all the latest skills always installed, whereas it doesn't always set up that way if you install the tool yourself. And also, if you're paying for Salesforce Vibes and somebody decides to take away Claude, it doesn't matter. You still have Salesforce Vibes, and that's on your Salesforce contract. Okay, MCP Essentials is next. Any questions about Vibes, coding, administration, freezing your users?
So one question I had, we have the skills, but I think yesterday or today, I don't remember,
Yeah.
I saw a post on LinkedIn that Salesforce launched plugin. So
Yes.
how is the plugin different from skills?
The plugin includes the skills, and the special thing about plugins is they auto upgrade. So as we add more skills, you don't have to install the latest set of skills. So if you have Claude and you install the Salesforce plugin, there is a plugin directory if you go into Claude or Cursor, and it's like a marketplace, and you can choose the Salesforce plugin, and it will keep it updated. So otherwise, it's the same.
It's more easy to maintain.
Yeah, it's the way it should have been.
For the publisher.
Yeah, we just didn't have our act together. So the first way to get it out was maybe we were testing it, maybe it was in beta, we were changing skills, but now we feel pretty good about these skills, so now they're in the marketplace.
And for the skills, you'll have to keep on upgrading it. Like you're downloading a skill today.
Yeah.
Week from now, something changes or you update.
So the advantage with skills is if one
It's
of the skill is
personalized.
not it comes in between, if at all it should be invoked, but it gets invoked.
Right.
If you use skills, you have the control on adjusting that. But
So this is one of the links I gave you that's earlier on, but if you go into labs.agentforce.com, which is where a lot of this stuff is, and you go to start building, you're on the left-hand side here, there's a bunch of skills, there's a bunch of build anywhere. And if you're building on Claude Code or Vibes or whatever, this is the old link that's going to tell you how to get the skills. And this link to the skills is actually on a GitHub repo somewhere.
yeah, it's on the post.com.
Yeah, let's go to skills down here. Agent skills and Salesforce skills, view on GitHub. So this is where we originally, on the force.com GitHub repo, we were originally storing the skills. And the same skills I just showed you earlier, they're all right here. Data 360, DX, generate agent Apex, platform Apex generate. They're all right here. And if you click in and read them, you look at the skill.md file. MD means markdown. It's just a bunch of text that says, when I design Apex code, what do? I want to use service selector domain layering. That is a super advanced topic. Does anybody work with service selectors and domains? It's an architecture for creating Apex classes that will scale to super high volumes. And they test faster, the test classes run faster, and it's sort of an enterprise way of designing Apex classes. I know of them. I've never used them because I typically just prototype. But if you're building an enterprise solution, you want to use that. So a lot of the intelligence of the best way to write Apex is in here. A lot of the intelligence, the best way to write Apex classes is in here. Same for flows, they're in here. So this is all that's getting downloaded into your Claude directory so that you can just be a smarter admin, configurer, customizer, tester, stuff like that. Let me find my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So MCP. People say, so I talked about this earlier, creating custom welcome pages, custom home pages. Salesforce looks like this sometimes. When you look at, in this case, we're looking at a case screen. And we have all these boxes, little panels. We have a service assistant, which is an AI agent on the upper right-hand side. That works like an agent. It looks at what's going on and makes recommendations. And then you can check off the different recommendations that have been made so you can take the best practices of your best service person and make it available to everybody. Recommended knowledge, it's whatever, you know what this is. But people want something different. This is Claude Desktop. I want to be able to go to Claude, and I said, show me all of Eric Ule's deals sorted by close date and flag which ones need immediate action. And Claude comes back with colors and a summary of total deals and pipeline and which ones are past my close date that are still open. And there's just a different way now that people are thinking that they want to work with their data. Do I have to go into the Salesforce UI and go click, 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 and the two pieces of data I want aren't on the same page? So they're building these custom UIs. They're either using Claude connected to Salesforce, Claude connected to Google Drive, Claude connected to Calendar, Claude connected to OpenTable, Claude connected to anything. Claude, you can just tell Claude what you want to do. And you can give Claude skills. I only want reservations at 3-star restaurants. I don't. I only want barbecue. I only want Thai food, whatever your skills are. You can tell it what your preferences are. People are going crazy and creating React apps or Node.js apps where this is maybe a homepage looking at project management. Is this Salesforce? I don't think so. It says live on Firebase up here, but all the data is coming from Salesforce originally, and then maybe it's working offline, or I don't know why Firebase is involved here. But the point is, people are happy when they look at the screen. It feels like it's theirs. They're proud of it. It may be optimized. The CEO of Salesforce EMEA in Europe, he's Belgian. He doesn't go to salesforce.com and log in. He opens up his app, and it has everything he needs. He has 2,000 people who report to him, and he wants to know what the pipeline looks like in Ireland and what the pipeline looks like in Germany and where the risk is and what the biggest deals are and what customers are coming through the executive briefing center this week and when is Mark Benioff going to be in town and whatever his world is, he has his dashboard. So he's created his dashboard. He's the smart enough guy where he just worked with Claude back and forth. I need a dashboard. It should look like this. It should connect to Salesforce. I want this component over here. Can we design it? There's not enough room for this component. Can we move this around? Just talk to your Claude agent and build your dashboard. He's not a programmer. Okay, so let's back up a second. We've always had a UI, and we had APIs starting in 2003. And the APIs were either SOAP or REST, and the call would come in through an external client app or a connected app. And the connected app gives you two keys, a private key and a public key that you can use for connection. And then you get into REST and you can access your resource, whatever the custom object or the Apex class you want to, the flow, you might want, or even you could access agents via the API, via REST. We've always had that. And then you could also write custom UI components. So that black screen we saw earlier, that's not technically new. You could build that before. What's new is programming is free, almost. Anybody can program now. Anybody can vibe code an app. You can vibe code your Salesforce UI. So Anthropic, developers initially wanted to be able to work with GitHub. They wanted to be able to work with documentation libraries where there was, more documentation on how to work with React. And they wanted to have their programming screen be able to connect out to all these other services, tools. So they said, let's invent a protocol. It's called Model Context Protocol. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's what it's called. Got it? Yeah, okay. And we're gonna create this so we can list all the tools possible that we know about, and the agent's just gonna know how to get to whatever, the documentation about Apex, the documentation about Node. And so they created this, and so now your agentic client or your MCP client, which is your desktop, can now talk to a server, get the tools, and then send the list of tools over to the LLM and say, Eric just said he wants to build an Apex class. We know of these tools. Do any of these tools look like the right tool to use? And the LLM will go like, yeah, that second one looks good. Let me read that. And then the LLM will propose back that that tool will be combined with this request, and then that will become how the request is turned into Apex code. So that's amazing. Then it expanded even further. So there's 3 types of servers. There's reference servers, Google Maps. There's third-party servers where people are hosting the servers for themselves. And then there's community servers. We have Salesforce. We have a bunch of apps down here. But they're all basically exposing more and more apps to MCP. So we had APIs, but now we have, starting in April this year, now there's MCP endpoints or hosted MCP servers for your Salesforce org. So now that dream of that black screen where somebody says, I want to look at all my projects or all my cases, and I want to see the case comments and which cases have been recently updated, and I want to flag them in green. And whatever you want to do, you can do now because the data is just easily available. But how many of your users as admins, how many of you users know what to do with API access today? Have they ever used API? Do you give API access to your users? Do you let them upload data with the data loader? Do you let them, you do? Do you let them delete data with the data loader?
No.
So the risk of using API is the scale. So the blast radius, the destruction you can do to your Salesforce data is much more dangerous when you're using the API. Normally as admins, you're educated. You know what to do and what not to do. You know that generally Salesforce is forgiving, except if you modify a record, there's no undo. I hope you have a backup. Undoing one record is not so bad because you might have record audit trail history turned on. But what if your salesperson says, oh, I see I have 57 opportunities where the close date is in the past. Move all my opportunities to close date in the future. Move them all forward 3 months. And it goes back and it finds all opportunities since when they first started work at your company. And it moves them all forward to this date and totally messes up the pipeline. And then your workflows fire for big deal alerts, and it sends all the bosses alerts that big deals are closing. And now people think, oh my God, now there is a reputational risk for the administrator and the IT guy, and there's no undo for that operation unless you have a backup tool. So we invented MCP clients. They still go through the external client app. They go to the hosted MCP server, and then you can access your data. So it's really, you can find it in the setup menu. If you go to setup, this is something everybody has. You search for the word MCP server, and you'll find up here 8 or 10 MCP servers. And I'll show you more in a second. But they're basically ways to give your Claude, your agentic tools, access to Salesforce, to your org, to do amazing things, to do research, to do report joins you can't do in Salesforce. Give me all of my opportunities and connect them with the cases that are related to the same account. There's no way to do that report in Salesforce because you can only go down the trajectory for the data model. You can't go up and over like that. So, but you can if you do 2 queries and you tell Claude to join on account ID and put it in one table, now you can have a join. And it probably will work. It's not an analytics tool, so I'm not sure it's going to work, but you can do amazing things that way. So you get these, what do you get? You get these hosted MCP servers. You get a metadata actions MCP server that helps Claude know how to deploy and download XML or config settings and stuff. You can modify users. You can freeze users. You can, I call them CRUD access MCP servers. S-object all, S-object reads, S-object mutations. Those are how if you wanted read-only access for your users, Your EVP of sales, he wants to look at all opportunities. Great. Let me give you read-only access to the pipeline because he's a nice guy, lady. She's smart, but she does not know what update all means. And there's no undo unless you have a backup. So start with read-only. This is where I'm getting to MCP basics. As administrators, I want you to know when this comes to you and your business people say, I need MCP access. Okay, let's try read-only first. MCP read-only is the same as download all. Do you let your users download their data, run reports and export? Some companies do. A lot of companies don't. Some companies have event monitoring and they have transaction security policies where you can say if somebody runs a report on more than 2,000 records, we make them log in again, or we block the action, or if somebody tries to do an export, we block the action, or we notify the administrator. So there are some security policies that are put in place for some orgs, but when you give somebody read access and they can say, download all my contacts and their email addresses because I don't like the fact that I have opt out on all my contacts and I want to send emails to all my contacts even if they've opted out. Salesforce won't let you send emails to people who are marked as opt out. Neither will Marketing Cloud, but I'll just put it in my Outlook and I'll send an email. And now there are fines, if anybody's watching, there are regulatory fines for not following the opt out requirements. So there's risks here that people don't think about. There's also a Data 360 MCP server. Tableau has an MCP server. Marketing Cloud Next. I've seen people design a marketing campaign via text in an agent. You have a question?
So it should generally respect the Salesforce security level permission.
It does.
Right? So why do we need that additional level of permission? So if I'm not able to modify, I'm not able to modify.
If you're not able to?
If I don't have Salesforce permissions to modify,
Yes.
and I'm calling those MCP tools, then I shouldn't be able to modify. So why do I need it at the MCP level?
Yeah. So when you log into the MCP using the Claude agent, you have to log in as your Salesforce user. And so it applies your profile and your permission sets and do you have access to this object? Do you have read-only access to opportunities, this opportunity? So all that is applied. There's no good way for me to ask you this question, so I'm not going to ask it. There are some administrative teams who implement security through page layout. They don't use field level security settings. And so if I take away access to a field by hiding it, I'm good until I use the API. And now I have access to all those fields because somebody didn't do the job right because it didn't matter. I don't have API access as a normal user. But now that we have MCP, we're basically giving API access to anybody who wants it. So there's two problems that come up, even though security is applied. One is security really applied? Because people have been using page layout because it's quick and dirty to hide fields, but people still have read access, or maybe they mark a field as read only on the page layout, but it's not marked as read only somehow on the object or on the perm set or the profile. That's one problem. And it only surfaces once you turn on MCP and give it, and people are like, what's this field? Manager notes. There's manager notes on the opportunity, and only the managers were allowed to see that because of their profile, but now the salespeople can see manager notes. Like, that's an example. The other problem is that for risk reasons, when I'm allowed to update my opportunity every field if I'm a salesperson. Should I be allowed to do that? It depends. Maybe I should only be allowed to update next steps, close date. I shouldn't allow anything to move to close via agent, maybe only via the web or something. We need a little bit more friction. MCP takes away all friction to modifying data. And so the two problems are data exfiltration. I can see all records, but in Salesforce, there's no download button. But over in my custom app, there's a download button. So I have read-only access, but I can still download. And then if I update records, if I say update all records, including close date and opportunity amount, can I make a mistake that is, well, I don't want to be able to make a mistake that's hard to undo. And so even though I'm allowed to update one record at a time in the Salesforce UI, the UI is providing friction that we didn't know was helpful. because once you take away the UI and you let everything happen via API, I can update 1 million, whatever. I can update thousands of opportunities or records at a time with no effort. And so you want to contain the blast radius. So we see people doing, I'll get to a demo. What we see people doing is tightening the MCPs. So one thing you can do is deploy a read-only server for your users. So I have read-write access in the UI, but I'm not sure I want people to be able to update using Salesforce somebody asked on the chat right here, what have you automated at work without human in the loop? Those are the harder agents. Those agents could be using MCP. Until those agents are trustworthy, I don't want people to use those agents to update records in Salesforce. So we're starting with read-only. Also, if you want to make sure people don't download email address, you don't expose the whole record, you expose a named query. A named query is a stored procedure, and you can basically say, there's a predefined SOCL statement that says, when you query contact information, include first name, last name, title, phone number. There you go. And the person can say, where's the email? Oh, sorry, email's not included because we can't let you take email out of the system. We already block it through profiles and permission sets in the UI. What do you want us to do? You want us to open the door and let the water go out through the back door? So that's one just to think about. And then build your own tool. The thing to demo here is, so if I go to my Salesforce instance and go to setup, let me check my font size, make sure it's okay. And then we go to MCP. The MCP servers are here. And so out of the box, when you first get them, they're inactive. We see SObject all, mutations, Tableau next, Data 360. I don't know what this one is, Data Cloud SQL. Must be a new one. Metadata experts, Salesforce API context. I don't know what this one is. I don't know what this one is. There's something to do with deployment and helping my CLI or helping my Claudes of the world do things. So, and then down at the bottom here, we have SObject reads and Tableau 360. So these are all inactive. And to make this work, you have to choose one to activate. So we can go into reads. Activate. Still, it's not usable. So there's no risk in activating, deactivating. In each of these, there's a bunch of tools that are exposed. So once you expose this to your agent's going to know how to get related records, get recently viewed records, query records, search across objects. And there's a little bit more definition here and description that says how it works. And this description is what your agent uses to understand what shape of data to give it to it. It looks at this right here and says, okay, you need some kind of, fully qualified query. And so that's enough information for the agent to know what to do. This is the out-of-the-box hosted tool called Reads. But I can't customize the tools. There's no prompts in here. If I deactivate it, can I customize it? No, I can't. But what I can do, let's go back to my MCP servers, or click here, and I can add a new MCP server, and I'll create a new one, and I'll call it restricted access. Restricted. And I'll say, used by agents for users who might make mistakes. Okay, so now we have no tools. So we can add tools. So we can add, if you use Prompts Builder, we can add prompts, or we can add tools. And the tools we can add are, the list is getting bigger every day. Anything we can add, if you have an Agentforce agent, you can expose it on a server. You can add Apex actions, which we use in flows. So we have a bunch of out-of-the-box actions. Apex REST, have you created any Aura enabled or REST enabled Apex classes? Those are here. Connect, I don't know what that is, but probably Connect API stuff. If you've built a flow, that's an auto-launched flow, not a screen flow. You can expose this, add it as a tool, so now your agents can access these things, a named query or prompt templates. So you can design, I brought this up because I was just saying, how do I restrict access? We can do named queries, we can do read-only, but what if I want to allow a little bit of read-write? I can create a flow that allows update to 3 fields on the opportunities. And that way I can, this isn't a read-only one, it just says restricted access. So I can allow people to update opportunities, and I can also put a sockle limit on that flow, or maybe a limit on that flow, a loop limit, that says only 5 records. And I can put in the description of this tool, of this server or the tool, I can put that only 5 records are allowed. And by writing only 5 records are allowed, now the agent, when I'm trying to update records, knows it can send only 5 records. So this is the way to give your business users read-only access or restricted update access by controlling which tools. If you want to let them only download first name, last name, and phone number from contacts, but not email, you'll create a sockle code, or you'll create a flow that does a query that matches what their inputs are, and then presents them just those 3 fields via MCP. And now we're restricting, even though they have full access via the UI, we're restricting the access they have over MCP. What questions do you have?
Actually, this makes sense why the MCP will be exposed that way. Now I see the tools.
Yeah.
It makes sense to group it that way and provide it.
Yeah, nobody really knows about this custom tools ad server assets thing. It just like, it's buried so deep. They're like, what good is this for? Once you add them, you know, whatever, we can pick anything in here that's an Apex REST or Apex or enabled class. So the classes that were behind your Lightning Web Components, they're now free to expose. So there's one other step. Okay. To expose this, you have to create an external connected app. I'm going to create an external connected app A. It has a certain key, private key and public key. And then there's another external connected app B, public key, private key. I'm going to give the sales users access to this app. So if anytime I want to cut off all the sales apps, I can restrict who has access to this key. And I'm going to give the customer service users access to this one. It doesn't matter which one you come in through. You can access every server as long as you know the URL. I don't like that. I think we're not done building the product. I think there's still some features to be added. You're going to start to see the ability to add throttles, or how many records per day are allowed per server. That's what we offer out of the box. If you really want to control it, you need what's called an MCP gateway, which is a directory that your IT department runs, and they can actually control across all MCP servers that people are using, Google, Gmail, Salesforce, Workday, all the tools listed on each of those servers, which users have access to which tools. So there is one other feature that you can use control. You do need perm set access to be able to execute Apex classes and flows. So you can control flow access by the perm set. So there are controls, but you really got to know, and not everybody knows that. But so you can control very surgically who can do what. That's the Salesforce way on hosted servers that are on Salesforce. If you're using an MCP gateway where all those servers are listed, once they go through there, there's going to be a control on that server that says, oh, I know who Eric is. He only can access Workday tools. He can't access Salesforce tools or sales or service tools or whatever. So the controls can be outsourced, and much more surgically. They can actually look at how many records are going through, what kind of queries are being allowed. Ours is a beginning of control, but the big thing that we found is like, yay, and it's a brand new feature. It's only been out for 3 months. So on the one hand, please forgive us for not being done yet, but also everybody wants to use it so fast. I'm telling you about these things you have to worry about, because I'm sure your business is going to come to you and say, I want to use Claude with Salesforce. And I want you to know about, you can, it works. It's actually pretty fast, but you got to watch out for where the risks are. Did I scare you?
You could do all the kind of the other stuff that can go wrong.
Yeah, and it didn't occur to us. They went live. We were so excited. And then we started thinking, wait a minute. And then I was practicing myself. I added the MCP server to VS Code, and I was talking to my Salesforce org down here, and I was pretending I was a salesperson, and I said, move all of my closed opportunities, my open opportunities with close dates in the past. I forgot to say open. So it was a genuine mistake. Move all my opportunities with close dates in the past to this month. And it moved 47 opportunities. And I know my dummy data was only like 2 opportunities closing the month before. And I said, oh my gosh, I know what I'm doing, and I just messed up my data. And it was a demo environment. It wasn't serious, but that we started realizing only once we got the power that we're not used to having this power of API level scale as regular users. So the other things that I bring up here, the ways to control this, make sure, it says user, make sure you have a backup restore solution connected and tested. I don't care which one. So especially with read-only, I don't really care. If you're doing read-write updates, I don't know. If you don't have controlled restrictions on how many records people can update at a time, I would say we need a backup plan. And then expose tested Agentforce agents via MCP. So if you have an agent, like an Agentforce agent that already has logic in it that says only do 3 records, only do these fields, whatever the restrictions are, you could expose that via MCP, and your agent can talk to the MCP endpoint and say, is there a tool that lets me update records in Salesforce? And your agent has that description. You can send the data to the Salesforce agent, and it will go make the update, and it has controls that it's enforcing on that side. But you have to have already tested that and designed it so it has those restrictions, and most people haven't done that. All right. That's the end of my MCP warnings. What questions do you have?
Lot to think about.
Yeah.
So you can also use the MCP for external sources of data as well, like AWS or other connections.
Yeah.
The Connect tab.
So what do you mean? Are you
Like,
saying?
I see the tools, like you can use the Connect.
Yeah. Let me pull that back up here because I was saying I didn't know what that was for. When you go in here, tools, add, and in here you have connect.
Yeah. Usually Connect refers to like, maybe it's.
Oh, okay. This is the Connect API. There's a weird, I don't understand this. I've been here for a long time. There's always been an API, but then some products, to access them, they're in the Connect API.
Oh, okay.
And so this is the analytics. So Salesforce Analytics used to be called Wave, used to be called CRM Analytics. That's here, Commerce Cloud. So this looks industries, if you're using manufacturing, or there's some add-ons to Salesforce for omnichannel, stuff like that.
So it's just like other Salesforce products.
Other Salesforce APIs, yeah.
It's a specific API. It's a different API.
It's a different
the
API.
Connect API.
Connect API.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so that's good. And then there are, so Apex Actions, I think if you,
I guess you can use like the REST API.
yeah, the REST API is here. And then also there you can, so Salesforce agents can be exposed via MCP to your MCP clients. This is the server, MCP clients, like your Claude, Cursor, whatever. And then Salesforce agents can be clients consuming data from Google, Calendar, Gmail. So the Salesforce org can be both a client to some MCP servers, a user, but also a provider to other clients. So depending on the use case, you were saying you can connect to other services. Yes, you can register other MCP servers as available tools for flow actions and for agents,
Right.
where your logic on Salesforce needs to access remote resources.
Right.
So you can do that also. I think I just made it really confusing. So I'm going to wrap it up.
Cool.
Any more questions? Okay, I'll be here for a while. So thanks everybody online. Let me check the notes here. Yeah, no more Q&A. So thanks everybody for attending. Do you want to wrap it up?
Oh, yes, yes, thank you. Thanks everyone for attending. Hope you found the session really good. We in this room are really excited and to know all these new things and eager to go into it more in depth.
We'll send out the deck.
So just Eric just said that he'll send out the deck. I'll send out a deck, and I'll send out the recording
Great.
as a follow-up to this session. So look out for an email with the deck and the recording. It should be within a couple of days. It should reach you. So thanks everyone for spending time, and have a great one. So see you next time.
Okay, we'll see you later. Thanks,
See you.
everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, Parvati.